Imagine a puppet. Its every movement dictated by unseen strings, pulled by a master hidden from view. Now, imagine that puppet is you. And the master? Your childhood. 3 of the world's leading trauma experts, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. Gabor Maté, and Dr. Daniel Siegel, agree on one unsettling truth: most adults have no idea how much their childhood is still running their life right now. This isn't about blaming parents. This is about neuroscience. About physiology. About patterns etched deep before you even formed conscious memories. A hidden architecture. A silent command center. What if the choices you make today aren't truly yours? Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, presents a finding that reshaped our understanding: trauma lives in the body. Not just the mind. It's an imprint. A visceral memory, stored in our very physiology. The shock of an early adverse event, the chronic stress of an unstable environment, these aren't merely intellectual recollections. They are sensations. Tensions. Reactions that bypass conscious thought, emerging as anxiety, hypervigilance, or inexplicable emotional surges. What if your body is remembering what your mind has long forgotten? A silent alarm. Always on. Then, there's Dr. Gabor Maté. His research illuminates a profound connection: how unmet childhood needs create adult addictions and anxiety. The yearning for connection, safety, authenticity. When these core needs go unfulfilled in crucial developmental windows, the child adapts. Forms coping mechanisms. Not necessarily malicious, but survival-driven. These strategies, effective in childhood, become maladaptive in adulthood. Chasing external validation. Compulsive behaviors. A quiet desperation. What if your adult struggles are simply echoes of a child's desperate plea for love, attention, or safety? A deep well of longing. Dr. Daniel Siegel, a pioneer in interpersonal neurobiology, shows us the brain itself. His science reveals how early trauma literally rewires neural pathways. The brain is not a static organ. It's dynamic. Experiences, especially early ones, sculpt its very architecture. Chronic stress or lack of secure attachment can alter critical circuits for emotional regulation, stress response, and self-awareness. It's a foundational shift. A hard coding of certain reactions. What if your brain, the very organ of your conscious thought, was quietly modified by events you can't recall before you had language to describe them? A pre-programmed state. So, we have the body remembering, unmet needs driving, and the brain itself rewired. Together, these form invisible scripts. Unwritten rules governing our reactions, our choices, our very sense of self. We operate on these scripts daily, believing them to be our authentic impulses. But are they? Are they truly ***, or the well-worn paths forged in environments long past? They dictate our comfort zones, our fears, our aspirations. They whisper limits. They project familiar narratives onto new situations. A constant feedback loop. A silent loop playing on repeat. Consider the echo chamber of emotion. You encounter a new situation. Perhaps a disagreement at work. Or a minor relational conflict. Your conscious mind registers the present event. But beneath the surface, your body tenses. Your heart races. An emotion disproportionate to the current stimulus floods your system. Is this current anger? Or the reverberation of childhood frustration, of not being heard, of feeling powerless? Van der Kolk's insights point directly to this. The body, perceiving a familiar threat, even when none exists in the present, activates old survival responses. A ghost in the machine. Haunting the present moment. Maté's work reveals that the pursuit of external coping mechanisms isn't a moral failing, but a profound attempt to self-regulate. To soothe. To numb. If childhood needs for connection and comfort were unmet, the adult seeks substitutes. Substances. Shopping. Workaholism. Endless scrolling. The temporary relief masks the underlying ache. The fundamental yearning. These behaviors become powerful, not because of their inherent pleasure, but because they momentarily quiet the internal distress that originated in early life. A short-term solution for a long-term wound. A never-ending chase. Siegel's brain science illustrates the physical reality of these invisible forces. Our neural pathways, strengthened by repeated experiences, become deeply grooved. Think of a well-worn path through a forest. It's easier to follow it than to forge a new one. Similarly, if early experiences ingrain patterns of fear, shame, or disconnection, those neural pathways become dominant. They are the default. The brain, in its efficiency, prioritizes these established routes. It's not a choice. It's a physiological bias. A default setting. A set of neural handcuffs that restricts present possibilities. How do you break free from a prison you didn't even know existed? The question then becomes, what is the cost of this unawareness? If our childhood is truly running so much of our life, what are we sacrificing? Authentic connection? Personal freedom? The ability to respond to present circumstances with clarity, rather than reacting from past wounds. The experts suggest the toll is immense. A perpetual cycle of misunderstanding. Of self-sabotage. Of feeling stuck, yet unable to articulate why. A life lived on autopilot. A life constrained by old maps. A profound disconnect from our true potential. The shadow cost is far higher than we imagine. Let's compare. On one side, the childhood experience, feeling dismissed, unheard, unsafe. On the other, the adult response, difficulty setting boundaries, people-pleasing, avoiding conflict at all costs. The link is not always obvious. We rationalize. We find reasons for our adult behaviors in the present, ignoring the deeper, more powerful roots. It's a fundamental misattribution. A constant interplay between what happened then and how we behave now. The experts challenge us to look beyond the surface. To see the patterns. To question the narratives we tell ourselves about why we are the way we are. The past's subtle influence. Van der Kolk emphasizes that the body literally tells the story. Chronic pain. Digestive issues. Autoimmune conditions. These are not always purely physical ailments. They can be somatic expressions of unresolved trauma. The body, constantly on alert from past threats, can exhaust itself. Its systems go into overdrive, or conversely, shut down. It's a language, often misinterpreted. A desperate plea for attention from the unconscious. What if your physical symptoms are trying to communicate something profound about your earliest experiences? A dialogue without words. A deep, persistent murmur. Maté warns that the deeper the unmet needs, the more profound the pull towards compensatory behaviors. The cycle perpetuates. The addiction provides temporary relief, but it never truly fills the void created by early emotional deficits. In fact, it often widens it, adding layers of shame, guilt, and further disconnection. It becomes a prison of coping. A desperate search for an external fix to an internal wound. The illusion of control. The grim reality of escalating dependence. A path that deviates further and further from authentic self-expression. A tightening grip. Siegel clarifies how these rewired pathways become the brain's default mode. When faced with stress, or even novelty, the brain automatically reverts to its most established connections. If those connections were forged in a landscape of fear or neglect, then fear and neglect become the lens through which the world is perceived. It's not a conscious choice to be anxious or distrustful. It's the brain's trained response. It's pre-programmed interpretation. A default setting that limits our capacity for flexibility. A deeply ingrained filter. A constant internal monologue of warning. The puzzle deepens. We are not merely products of genetics, nor solely of conscious decisions. We are living tapestries woven from threads of early experience. Our deepest yearnings, our most perplexing patterns, our inexplicable anxieties, they all hold clues. Clues to the invisible architecture. To the unmet needs. To the hardwired pathways. The experts compel us to look beneath the surface. To ask not what's wrong with me, but what happened to me. The question itself is a gateway. A first step towards deciphering the silent language of our own history. A new narrative awaits. So, how do we begin to unravel these threads? Van der Kolk points toward somatic experiencing. Learning to listen to the body's sensations. To track the energy of past trauma as it manifests in the present. It's about befriending the body, not fighting its responses. Allowing stored energy to safely discharge. Moving beyond talk therapy alone. Engaging in practices that ground us in the here and now. What if the key to unlocking your past isn't in remembering every detail, but in understanding the present language of your own physiology? A different kind of memory. A pathway to release. Maté introduces compassionate inquiry. A gentle, yet profound process of self-exploration. Not to judge the addiction or anxiety, but to understand its purpose. Its origin. To ask, what pain is this behavior trying to soothe? To reconnect with the unmet needs of childhood. To offer compassion to that young, vulnerable self. It's about recognizing the humanity behind the coping strategies. Moving from self-condemnation to self-understanding. What if the path to freedom from addiction and anxiety lies in embracing the very parts of yourself you've been trying to escape? A gentle revolution. A profound shift in perspective. And Siegel offers the concept of integration. Bringing together the disparate parts of the self, the emotional, the rational, the embodied, into a coherent whole. This means consciously working to create new neural pathways. To move beyond the default settings. To foster secure attachment, even as an adult. Through mindfulness. Through reflective practices. Through intentional relationships. It's about cultivating a more flexible, adaptive brain. A brain capable of choice, not just reaction. What if the brain, once rewired by trauma, can be rewired for resilience? A dynamic, evolving masterpiece. Your own making. The journey of understanding what your childhood did to your brain is not about helplessness. It is about empowerment. It's about transforming the unseen strings into conscious choices. It's about recognizing the profound impact of your earliest years, not to be condemned by them, but to finally write a new story. A story where you are the author. The journey is complex. It demands courage. But the prize? A life lived with greater freedom. Greater authenticity. A profound sense of self-ownership. A future truly your own. The mystery unravels, not into despair, but into possibility.